Anybody out there? What's up? Hey, my name is Jeff. I'm a guitar player, obviously, guitar teacher. If you can hear me, if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. I teach a lot, so if you got any guitar questions, let me know. I've been playing for a long time, so maybe I can answer some questions for you. Hey, thank you, thank you. Is it good? Does it sound all right? Good. Not too scratchy or anything? I appreciate that. Let's see who we got on here. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for the thumbs up. Snoop Dogg. You know how I learned marijuana? How dare you talk about marijuana on my channel? Anyway, let me know if you guys have any questions or any fun stuff you'd like me to play to give you some pointers on your guitar playing abilities. I'm just jamming right now until somebody gives me a question. Right. Do a crack pipe review. You talking about the song Crack Pipe? Play some Santana. Hey, Jeff, great stuff. How do you keep chord progressions memorized? I forget a lot of songs. What are you using to play out side sounds? Okay, now we're getting some good questions. How do I keep chord progressions memorized? Well, I play a lot of different songs. I play in a lot of different bands. Sometimes you got to learn a lot of songs. So I can't say that have every song in my head. I have to review them every time, unless it's a band I play with like all the time. But if it's somebody I haven't played with for a while, I got to review the songs for a couple days. So the weird thing is when I'm just hanging out by myself, I can't think of any songs to play, but I literally know like probably hundreds, if not 1,000 songs because I've just been playing for so long. So I guess the ones that stick are the ones that I like the most and that I like to play. But yeah, I have to always keep reviewing. So, what scales are you using to play outside sounds? Hey, I have a video on this on my YouTube channel, by the way, how to play outside, different scales and stuff. Um, well, there's different scales that you can superimpose over different chords. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's pretty normal, really. You know what I mean? Especially if you're a working musician, you're always constantly learning new music, learning songs. So songs that you love, that you've played a million times, they're going to stick with you. But songs that you just learned last weekend for one gig or something, they kind of go in and out the other, and I have to review them all the time. So to play outside, so let's say if I'll find a little one chord vamp here. It's really good to hear stuff over one chord so you can hear the outside. So this is C minor, And I'll just start with some C minor blues. It's very inside sounding, right? So that's just a pentatonic blues scale, right? Now I could play a mode, like maybe a Dorian mode, that would color it a little bit. I don't think it would sound outside, but it would start to color it a little bit. Let's check that out. Okay, so that has a color to it, but I don't think of it as being outside. So notes that are considered outside would be kind of outside the key. So there's certain scales that I like that incorporate some notes in the key and some notes outside of the key. So one of my favorite ones is the diminished scale. So C diminished, which is a whole step and a half step. Sounds a lot like C minor, but it's got a few colored notes in there. So let's hear what that's. So what I do is I just use it every now and then, and it kind of tweaks your ear a little bit, and then I just get back into some good old C minor blues. So that's one of my favorite ones. It's just a diminished scale from the root, and you should see the intervals it gives you. The first 4 notes are the same notes as a minor scale. But the next 4 notes are a little weird. You get a flat 5, you get a sharp 5 or a flat 6, a regular 6, and a major 7. So I just blend it in with my pentatonic lines, and you get some hip outside sounds that way. So yeah, I just kind of use the minor blues as my home base, and then that's another scale that I like to use. Sometimes you can use, if you're using, you can also use the half whole diminished scale, which is just half steps and whole steps. So the half whole diminished scale sounds like this. So that's a super hip outside sound too. So really any diminished scale kind of works, because the diminished whole half gives you some outside sounds. The diminished half whole gives you, which is the same scale, just moved up a half step. So diminished whole half is, diminished half whole is, it's the same scale, just moved up a half step. And if I move it up another half step, it's the 5 chord, which is G, would be like a G13 flat 9. Which is the 5 chord, because you can always imply the 5 too. So really any diminished scale will get you there. You know what I mean? Whether it's a half whole or whole half. So does that apply to dominant seventh chords? No, not as much, because on dominant seventh chords, I would play the half whole. So if I do a C7, let's go C7 backing track. So here's a C7 backing track. Now I would use only the half whole. So that one works over dominant chords better. You can use that one, and you can use the same one up a half step as the 5 chord, but I wouldn't use the whole half over that, because that's more of a minor sound. So you can play whole half and half whole diminished scale, a half step up as the 5 result. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. So when you're playing over like a static chord, you can do what's called imply the 5. So you could play the 5 as an altered scale. You could play the 5 as a diminished scale. So the 5 of C is G. So I could play a G dominant diminished and resolve it back to C, even though there's no G chord in here. So check it out. So that was some G dominant diminished resolving back to C, because G is the 5. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Your guitar looks beautiful. Oh, thank you. Yes, it's a Les Paul. It's a Les Paul traditional. I love this guitar. It's my favorite guitar. Yeah, so that's some ways to get out. Other ways to get out is things like sidestepping, playing a pentatonic scale up or down. Do you know what I mean? D flat melodic minor. D flat melodic minor. That's C altered. So you could play that too. That would bring you out. So if I the thing about the melodic minor scale is there's different patterns everywhere on the guitar. So depending on the position you're in is a different fingering pattern. But with the diminished scale, it's a repeating pattern. So it's really easy to build up a little vocabulary of some licks with that pattern, and then you can copy and paste them. So it's easy. So like if I want to play C altered, if I play it here, it's a different pattern. But with diminished scale, it's the same pattern down in minor thirds. Do you know what I mean? Or up a minor third. So it's actually easier to play because you can just take that same pattern and find it around your C minor blues. So like if I was here, I can see it right here. Right? Or if I'm playing here, same fingering. Or if I'm playing here, it's the same fingering. So it's really easy to slip a lick in here and there. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's fun stuff. It's good to practice it over a static chord so you can really hear it. So if I'm playing, So it's so much easier, you know what I mean? It's almost like piano on that sense of playing the same patterns using different keys. I guess I don't play piano, so I can't. I can barely play a C chord on the piano, but yeah, something like that. I guess I guess piano is more interval based or something. This is too, but I'm seeing it as kind of a fingering pattern, right? So the fingering pattern just repeats over and over again, and it's the same notes. So let's see. Jose says, "What's your live amp setup?" Well, most of the time these days, I use amp modelers because everybody I play with wants a silent stage. So I don't get the old Marshalls out too much. See down here, I have a Bogner. Here is a Marshall JCM 800. That's a Marshall Plexi, one of the 20 watts. And then I've got some other amp. I've got a Marshall Silver Jubilee Bogner cabinet. So preferably, I would like to use those amps. But lately, because everybody uses in-ears now, everybody likes to use quiet stage, especially for bigger concerts. A lot of times, or a festival, sometimes you have a back line there you can use, but our whole unit is self-contained. So we just plug into our in-ears unit that goes out the front of house. We get the same mix. So it makes it really quick and easy to set up and break down as opposed to hauling around amps. On top of that, I do a lot of fly dates where I'm flying around. So I usually have my little amp modeling pedal board, which I have at my feet right now. I usually have that in my suitcase. So it's kind of the nature of the beast. I'm not crazy about it. I like amps myself because I'm old school, and that's why I'm tweaking these things all the time, because I'm trying to get them to sound like a decent amp. But right now I'm using the direct thing, you know what I mean? So yeah, good questions, everybody. Yeah. All right. So let's see. Let's go to this. Let's go back to minor for a second. A little C minor. So Daniel says, do you think theory is important, or is it more of rhythm and patterns? It just depends. I think everybody has their own journey. For me, I wanted to learn music theory because I heard guys doing things that I didn't understand. Like, why would he play that note, or why would he play that lick, or whatever? What's going on? So I was very inquisitive about sounds, like why would he play that, and why does that sound the way it does? So I was kind of wanting to learn music theory so I would know the backstory, just for my own personal use. Of course, I teach it now, but really what's most important as a guitar player is feel. You know what I mean? So when you say rhythm, I'm assuming you mean feel, like placing notes in certain spots where it feels good. So you can have somebody that has a really limited knowledge of music theory but has a great feel, and they'll get gigs all the time, and they should, because they sound good. That's really what it boils down to. So I'm not really a music theory snob, that's for sure. But for me personally, I wanted to learn it. So, I played pretty good before I learned it, though. I played a good 10 or 12 years, and I was in bands, and I could play all kinds of Van Halen and all that stuff. But yeah, I would just like, when I heard guys like Steve Vai and stuff, I'm like, what are they doing? I just had to learn some music theory. So now the thing is with music theory is you can use it to also be creative. You can use it as a tool to find new sounds and stuff, That's how I learned all that diminished stuff, was kind of studying music theory. And I realized, like, wow, there's some notes in and some notes out. So that led me down the path of understanding how all that outside stuff, and so That's what I think. What brands of in-ears do you use? Mine makes me sound thin. Yeah, in-ears are a tough one. Uh, my struggle with using in-ears when I first started using them was I felt really secluded. You're used to hearing the room, you're used to hearing the audience. And when I started using in-ears, they were really like, I felt like I was not present in the room. It felt like I was separated. So I bought this in-ear from a company called ASI, and they have little microphones built into them that you can bleed in the outside world. So I don't know if they're the best sounding ones you can buy, probably not, but the fact that you can bleed in some of the outside world for me made it feel a little more realistic. And then I can still hear the audience and I can hear people talking to me, but then I can also hear my mix in my ears. So I went with those. And I have some cheap ones just as a backup, just some ones you can buy off of Amazon or whatever. And actually, they don't sound bad. Now, you can also, if you have an extra mic, you can set up and put it on the stage out to the audience. You can bleed that into your ears too, so it'll give you a little more feeling like you're in the room with everybody. And we do that sometimes too, but my ears let in some of the outside world. So that's what was important to me. It wasn't as important to get the best sounding ones with bass frequency or whatever. Although they sound good, but I'm sure there's better ones. But it's the fact that they let the outside world in is what really mattered to me. I'm considering music schools like MI and LAC. Is it reasonable / possible to receive a full ride, or is that not very common? It's possible, that's for sure. I know people that have gotten full ride scholarships there, but I'm not going to say it's easy. Certainly not easy. You probably have to do quite a few auditions and work your way up to a final kind of performance at MI. I've actually judged those before myself when I was physically at MI. So what they do or this is what they used to do. I don't know if they do it anymore, but they used to have a scholarship program. People would submit to it. They would pick out people that they thought were exceptional or that were a good candidate for the scholarship. And then you would physically come to MI and put on and play a concert. You'd have judges there and they would decide who gets the scholarship. So it's not easy, I'll tell you that much, but it's possible. Yeah. I have to keep one out and one ear in. I usually feel like I just have to get some. I used to do that too. But now what I do is I run my ears in stereo. So when I pull one out, I used to always pull the right ear out. Now I'm half the mix is gone. So if you're going to do that, I would run mono so you could still hear everything in one ear. And I used to do that when I had an amp behind me because I wanted to hear my amp. But now that I'm completely direct most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, it doesn't make any sense because there's nothing blowing air behind me. So I just leave them both in and try to get as good a mix as I can. Thanks for that. I'm a piano player and I just copied people at first and played what I felt sounded good. But after looking at theory for a short time, I found it helps a lot. Yeah. Especially on piano. Piano is actually, theory on piano is more intuitive because the piano is like, here's an octave, here's an octave. It's like a copy and paste, same thing, copy and paste, right? So if you learn something within that one octave, you can extrapolate it up the instrument. On the guitar, it's different. You play a C chord here and you want to play a C chord up here, it's a different shape. It's a different fingering. So physically, it's a different instrument. So you learn different ways to get the music theory onto the guitar. I teach this all, by the way, on my YouTube channel. You can subscribe or whatever. I'm always putting out videos or whatever. Yeah, I just learned something good, yeah. Yeah, so on the piano, it has a physical thing about it that music theory tends to make more sense to me. It's laid out for you, you know what I mean? On the guitar, it's a little bit different. So you have to find ways to navigate the guitar. Like the cage system is a very popular one. I teach the cage system. 3-note per string patterns, just different patterns. But I think one of the things that happens is a downside of that is guitar players learn patterns a lot and they don't really know what the meanings of the notes are. You know what I mean? So after a while, you gotta build a relationship with a note between a chord behind you. So like, for example, on this, I have a C minor chord behind me, right? Right? So I want to know like what each note's going to do to it. So that was like a Dorian's thing I just played there. But if I manipulate it a little bit, like maybe I add the major 7 in there, it's going to give me a quirky sound, right? So, once you learn fingering patterns then on the guitar, then you have to kind of make sure you go back and realize what all the notes sound like. You have to kind of develop a relationship with the different intervals, like sevenths and sixths and stuff like that. I love the piano. It helped me understand voice leading. Yeah, that's another thing. Voice leading on a piano is much more logical than on a guitar. On a guitar, we use what's called grips, right? Like these kind of. Those are like chord-shaped grips, they call them. So on a piano, you can just see the small movement from one chord to the next. On the guitar, you can do that too, but I think it's a little bit trickier because it's just it's not there in your face like on a piano. You know what I mean? So yeah, if you guys, if you want to get more hip to some music knowledge, I started channel memberships on my YouTube channel where I got some exclusive stuff there and I'm going to keep posting there. Just started it, so I don't have anybody there. So if you'd like to be the first, be an honor. Yeah, so I'll show you. So like, for example, if you're playing a G chord and you learn the inversions like that, right? And then you want to lead to that from this inversion to that inversion. You can do it with an A minor chord. So I just look at it as the next chord up the scale, right? So if I'm playing a G and I play an A minor against the G, well, A minor against G gives me the 9, the 11, and the 13. So those are all extensions. So you get a chord tones, then extensions, then chord tones, extensions. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like voice leading. Or if you're going from one chord to the next, but you're just doing it by, let's say if I go, the 2 chord. So if I go from G to D, instead of going from G here to D here, right, I would go G to first inversion G. That's voice leading. There's C, right? Yeah. It's a little gospel-y sounding, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it's a little gospel-y. Yeah, inversions. So yeah, you got to learn inversions of triads. Like there's G, G. You can learn the notes in between. But if you put them all together, it becomes A minor. Right? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so, it's all fun stuff. And then you can do it with like 7th chords. So let's say if I had, a G6 chord, I wanted to go to A minor, I would play maybe, like C6, A minor, 7, same thing, right? Or so those are like 7th chord inversions. You got to learn those on the guitar too. Those are a little trickier. I think all that stuff is a little bit more logical on the piano. So, they both have their goods and bads. The cool thing about playing the guitar is if you play in a different key, you just kind of pick up the whole neck and move it and set it down, and all the same fingerings and everything are in different key now. You know what I mean? So it has its ups and downs. I find that R&B tunes are hard to learn. Is that what he says? Have had to learn? Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely kind of gospel-y R&B-ish for sure. Here's another thing. If you look at a chord, let's say you take a G major 7 chord, right? So G major 7 has a B minor in it, right? If you continue in thirds like that, you get, and then you get A, C, and E. That's an A minor chord. So the A minor triad is the extension of the G major 7, right? So when you play a G major 7, you could play B minor, right? Right, so B minor could be a G major 7. A minor is the extensions. Let me do it against E so I can play my E note here. So I would play E would be F sharp minor and right? So all kinds of tricks like that, you know. You gotta get hip to that stuff. Anyway, gang, I probably gotta get rolling soon, so thought I'd jump on here and let you know I'm gonna be on here more often because I just, you know, trying to please my YouTube subscribers, but I've also started channel memberships. Very inexpensive, by the way. It's not a big deal. And I got lots of videos to put in there because I've did a Patreon site for years. I still do it. But I know some people don't want to jump off of YouTube. You can just do it right on YouTube. And a lot of that videos I did for the past 4 years, like 250 videos, I'm going to start repurposing onto my YouTube channel. So check it out. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'll go live more. If you guys hang out, if you subscribe, I'll go live, you know, help you guys out in any way I can. So, you know, listen, I'm 58 years old right now, and I started playing the guitar when I was 9 years old. So I've been playing a long time. Lots of stuff packed away up here. And, you know, I'm probably not quite as good physically as I used to be because I used to practice like 10 hours a day, and now I don't have time to do that. But, you know, still got a little bit of me. So make sure you hang out. Please go live more often. I will do the best I can. All right, gang. I'll see you next time.